How's it going? If you will, from please like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Yeah, I'm back. I know I don't put out material as much as I should. I should say as much as I want to. So I did just get done watching the Resident Evil trailer, new Resident Evil film, and it's being directed. This is being directed by the director of Barbarian and Weapons, Zack Cregger. So if you know anything about Zack Cregger, said those are the movies he directed. Barbarian, Weapons. Weapons was considered one of like the best horror films to drop last year. So now, now I heard back then, after he finished Weapons, that he was working on a new Resident Evil movie, and I wasn't really sure. I figured, well, if Zack Cregger is doing it, it's going to be pretty good. Zack Cregger is a really good horror director. Um, I said those two movies are amazing, Barbarian and Weapons. So, what I can gather from this teaser trailer, because it's like a minute and 40-second teaser, but it's looks like it's a guy. He's in an isolated town. Uh, I'm gonna assume it's the T virus or it's some sort of virus. Um, I don't know how much Zack Cregger is going to be uh, using of the Resident Evil uh, uh, mythos in order to tell this story, because all it really looks like right now, let's say it does have like that feeling of dread, which I do admire for horror. It does have that feeling of isolation, and it's the fact that it's not Mila Jovovich and Paul W.S. Anderson doing it. So there's a plus. No slow mo action, um, bullet time dodging zombies. None of that craziness. No, it's time for a real Resident Evil movie. Now I'm a huge Resident Evil fan. I own a lot of Resident Evil games. So I'm recently playing Village right now. So, but and then I'm play Requiem after I play Village. Because I never beat Village. So like the thing is though with Resident Evil, it's series has been around for what, like 30 years, probably more than that at this point. The first Resident Evil dropped in '95. I think that was around the time the PS1 came out. That's the first game that ever scared the hell out of me as a kid. Just the old games like with the tank controls, and I still remember the dogs busting in through the windows, and that one scene where the ravens busted through the windows, and it gave you that jump scare. And that's where Resident Evil worked with the horror, because a lot of things looked really creepy. Like I said, you played as one character. You got to choose between Jill or Chris in the original, and the fact that you only played as those one characters. I have the remake too of the first game, so I need to beat that. But yeah, those games, it gave you that sense of fear, and it gave you that sense of dread and isolation. That's why when Resident Evil started putting in the partners, like with Resident Evil 5 and 6, I just felt like it started going in the more action direction that those Paul W.S. Anderson, Mila Jovovich movies sort of started going in that direction. And I just wasn't a fan of that. I actually don't really like any of those Resident Evil movies. I was like, y'all, this is not Resident Evil. Um, just way too much action, a bunch of nonsense. Uh, but yeah, it's just a bunch of crazy nonsense that those stupid movies had to offer. So, um, and I'll even come out and say it, man. I'm one of the rare people who actually like the TV show, the Netflix show. I know a lot of people hate on that movie, that show a lot. I thought it was a good show. I'm sorry. Now, I might go back and watch it again. I might change my mind, but yeah, I might. But yeah, I might go back and change my mind on it. But for right now, I thought the Netflix series was fine. Um, I just like it when people take Resident Evil and they try to do something different with it, but you still make it good, you know. And this looks like what Zack Cregger's is doing. Um, this doesn't like a character. Now I hear the complaints that people are going like, "Where's Leon? Where's this character? Where's that character? Where's that character?" Um, I don't know if you ever played any of the Resident Evil side games or if you played say Resident Evil 7 or 8. Yeah, Chris does show up in Resident Evil 7 and 8, but they're not central characters. Resident Evil does do spin-offs, or they'll do some mainline games where a main character is not at all in the game, or they're not a focal point of the game. Take for instance Resident Evil Survivor, um, the Outbreak games. Uh, uh, what was the one? There's a few. It was quite a few Resident Evil games where, um, Resident Evil Zero didn't have any of those characters in it. It had Rebecca Chambers in it. You know, and like nobody talks about Rebecca Chambers. But you know, the point is with Resident Evil, I think Resident Evil always does that, where they take a character that you've never even heard of, and it still somehow ends up being a really good game. So I don't know. I think this looks really good. Um, Zack Cregger's stamp is all over this. This looks creepy, especially the part where I saw the zombies in the doorway, and the door was like kind of dark, and it looked like they were kind of all fused together, but they were like their arms were on the. That looked kind of creepy. Um, this looks really violent. Um, looks like it's dark and dreadful. This gave me, with this trailer, it kind of gave me, um, remember that movie 30 Days of Night? So it sort of kind of gave me those vibes. And it kind of also gave me, a little bit of The Road, a little bit with Viggo Mortensen and Charlize Theron. Near The Road, where it's practically around this guy. It's like apocalyptic. There's nobody alive. There are no survivors but him. So I think we're going to get that dread. Um, Now, will he have somebody accompanying him? We don't really know that yet. Like I said, this is only a minute and 40-second trailer. Who is this protagonist? We really don't know his name. We don't know who he is. Um, I think even there's a part in the movie where he's like running and he looks like he's carrying like this big ass like power cell. So I'm wondering what's going on with that too. Um, the scene where he's like running through the city and there's like bodies like fucking just dropping off the building and they're just like turning like into little blood splats. That was crazy. It looks like the zombies are going to be in here, but they might be a little different. I know Resident Evil usually always changes up their zombies, so I'm excited to see what type of zombies Zack Cregger invents in here, or he uses. Um, so his lighting is really dreadful, with like his other movies like Barbarian or Weapons. There was always like that sense of dread in his movies, and I think that makes for a really good psychological horror film. I'm just glad we're not getting another action packed Resident Evil film. Like, we're actually getting somebody who I feel cares about the material enough to actually make it what it is. It's scary, it's creepy, and it's very atmospheric. Um, I don't know who the actor is in here. I don't know who any. I don't know. It only shows him in the trailer, the main character. So I'm wondering who else Zack Cregger cast, but it isn't like we'll see anything. Um, this movie comes out September. It's near the end of September. I think it was September 26th of this year. So we still got a while before we even get this movie. This is gonna be like towards the end of fall, going into autumn. So I'm curious to see how Zack Cregger is going to handle Resident Evil. If we'll actually get like a really good like film adaptation. We got a really good adaptation with The Last of Us, the TV show. So I'm curious to see what he's going to do with Resident Evil. So it's Resident Evil coming out later on this year at the end of September. Um, Tell me what you thought about the trailer. If you saw the trailer, are you a Resident Evil fan? You know, if you want to tell me what Resident Evils you played, I mean, I've virtually played all of them, so I'm definitely a fan. Uh, but tell me what you thought about the trailer. What Resident Evils you played? What are your favorite Resident Evils? Who are your favorite Resident Evil characters? Um, I'm always the Leon. They need to bring Claire back. I need to see some Claire. I miss Claire. They need to bring Claire back. But yeah, Claire Redfield. But and Sheva. Claire and Sheva. Two underrated characters. Claire and Sheva. Uh but yeah, just comment and tell me what you thought about the trailer and all the other questions I asked, and I will see you next video. Peace.